Hi, I'm here today with Scott Hamilton, who's the Executive Director of Cimarron Alliance. We've had an interesting month, some would say historic, for the gay and lesbian community in Oklahoma. We have voted overwhelmingly to add sexual orientation to the city's list of conditions in which it is prohibited to hire or fire based upon. We've joined hundreds of municipalities, large businesses across the country in doing so. It would seem to be an idea whose time has come.
It is. It is a time in Oklahoma City. I think it's a very exciting time to be here. There's a lot of movement that I'm not just sensing, but actually seeing. And I think that the council's work in really exploring the whole idea of including sexual orientation and a non-discrimination policy was a testament of growth of our city, and particularly in terms of it being a welcoming environment for everyone. So it is an exciting time to be here, and I think that the vote will certainly go down in history as being one that was a milestone for Oklahoma City.
Right. Wait, can you tell the audience about your work at Cimarron Alliance? What exactly does the organization do? And
I tell people frequently that I have the best job in the world. I go home at the end of sometimes a very, very long day, and honestly believe that something that I've been a part of that day is making life better for someone else here in Oklahoma. Cimarron Alliance has been in existence for a number of years, but it's only been in the last couple of years that we've really gained some major traction. Previous to that, there was no brick and mortar office, no full-time executive director. But the board said, even in a challenging economy, that it was time to take a major step forward. And so they began a search looking for an executive director. As fate would have it, I was looking at the possibility of relocating from New York and never ever imagined that I would be coming home to Oklahoma. And when I saw the work that had been done by Cimarron Alliance, when I saw the need that existed for that work here, it just became almost a no-brainer for me to pursue that opportunity. And I'm so grateful that I did. At its core, Cimarron Alliance is an education and advocacy organization. I'm frequently referred to as a gay activist, and that's not at all the role that I see myself in, but rather someone who's advocating for the rights of lesbians, gay men, bisexual, and transgender Oklahomans, and really looking at how we partner with other groups to ensure justice for all people. In terms of the education work, we do a lot of education, not just in a classroom type setting, although we frequently are represented at professional conferences for mental health professionals, other healthcare professionals, and those are always great opportunities to explain some of the unique challenges faced by gay folks in Oklahoma. But some of the greatest work I think that we do is on a more personal level. It's one-on-one meetings with council folks, with legislators. But even more important than that is the opportunities that we have and we take to help to educate other Oklahomans about how many gay people live here and the contributions that are being made to society through those folks.
what estimate would you have on the number of people we're talking about? And
There's no way to know for sure,
right.
because honestly, in polls, frequently people are often not comfortable in expressing their sexual orientation. But the best estimate that we have that there are about 365,000 gay men and women who live in Oklahoma. So that's a sizable number of people. In Oklahoma City, it's around 60,000. The metro area would be more.
So would you estimate 5 to 10% of the population?
Roughly 10%.
So is it not an insignificant number of people? Just about really every business, every family has a stake in protecting the rights. I mean, Does that seem like a fair statement?
It's more than a fair statement, and I appreciate that line of thinking, because so often people don't even know that they have someone in their family who is potentially affected um, by bullying laws or employment laws. They may be unaware that they have a gay child or parent or a niece or nephew or grandchild. But when you look at the numbers, as you say, virtually every family in Oklahoma has a reason to be concerned about equal opportunities for all people. And I'm very gratified to see some of the movement that I'm experiencing here in Oklahoma. There is a greater willingness, I think, to talk about those family members who may be different from the others. There is a greater willingness on the part, especially of young people, to come out to their families at an earlier age than in my generation, for example. And that's very healthy.
Scott, sometimes we hear phrases like homosexual agenda or gay lifestyle. Is it not fair to say that the gay and lesbian community is incredibly diverse, that there really is no homogenous community?
You couldn't be more right. The term gay agenda I always find interesting. I'm 51 years old and I have never yet received my copy of the gay agenda. I don't think it exists for the reasons that you said, because there is such diversity within even calling it a gay community is a bit of a misnomer, because it's not as if we all live in the same place, but there certainly is wonderful diversity in terms of age and ethnicity, in terms of interests, and certainly when it comes to work. You will find gay people in every line of business right here in Oklahoma City, from politics to medicine. We are the people who check you out at Walmart and cut your grass and cut your hair and do your taxes. And I love that kind of diversity. One of the things that I find interesting is that often people who are working to advance rights of any group tend to be a bit insular and focused very much on their own efforts. And I've heard people say, for example, that gay rights should not be considered civil rights. I disagree with that, and I think some of the great leaders of the civil rights movement would disagree with that. One of the reasons is that gay people are present in all communities, and that includes all people of color, all faiths. And so it does become an issue of treating all people fairly, an issue of human rights for everyone.
Right. You know, there was some debate about whether to talk about these things, have a public discussion about these issues, or whether it should be done quietly like the Oklahoma County did 5-6 years ago. We had the heartbreaking case with the Norman City Council where we had discussion and some very hurtful things were said, and then a young man committed suicide as a result of that. But we went ahead and we had a public discussion. I think it's healthy. I think that's what healthy families do, and Oklahoma City is a family. You express different ideas. You don't, dysfunctional families kind of bury these ideas. But could you speak to that and what message you would send to the gay and lesbian community in terms of change? Do you think things are changing in Oklahoma City?
Let me answer that part first. Yes, things are changing. Things are much better in Oklahoma City than they have been at any point in history for gay people who live here. In terms of public discussion, I have to say that now I can say that it was extremely healthy and it was very well done. At the time, though, it was very hurtful.
Right.
Sitting in the council chambers that morning and hearing some of the vicious things that I heard, it felt like I was being assaulted, and it was very uncomfortable, and it was very hurtful, and I became very angry and afraid. There was a sense of just being assaulted on so many levels. In retrospect, though, I think that it had to be that way, because some of the people who say some of the most outrageous things that frankly are not true about gay people, they have to get that out there so that right-thinking people can say, you know, I don't believe that.
Right.
And I think that's what the council did. That's why it was such an overwhelming vote. With great thought and care, the council listened to everything. They evaluated based on what other cities have done. They took great care in this process. And in the end, the truth really did prevail. I think that people said, you know, it's time for us to recognize the accomplishments of gay men and women and to make it a safe work environment.
Right.
Now, the beautiful thing about this piece of legislation is that it takes rights away from no one. And I have to be very clear, I don't believe in special rights. Frequently you'll hear people say, oh, gay people don't deserve special rights. And I would agree with that. But at the same time, I think it's critical that we all enjoy the same rights, the same protections, the same responsibilities. And that is not true at the federal level. It's not true at the state level. There is no similar policy at the state level to protect people based simply on their sexual orientation. So I think there's great leadership in Oklahoma City right now. When I consider where things were when I left Oklahoma as a young man, that was a very different time, a very different environment. There was a sense of everything had to be kept in the dark. And that's not true nearly so much today. Then there weren't churches that said, come on, welcome. We welcome everyone into our midst.
Right.
Today there are. There are several here in Oklahoma City. At that time, there were no businesses that included sexual orientation in their hiring policies. Now, every one of the Fortune 100 companies includes sexual orientation in their hiring policies. So there is change happening on a global level, but there is also change happening right here, right now. This year, we launched a public awareness campaign. First, just viral videos on YouTube, and people email them. Eventually, we hope to raise adequate funding to be able to televise some of these short promotional pieces. And they're ordinary people talking about their ordinary lives, what they do, how they respond to life. And the whole purpose is to just say, we're like everyone else.
Right. You know, I thought that the discussion that was happening was emotionally taxing. I agree. I think that continued discussion is very healthy, even though I heard some comments that I didn't agree with, some statistics that you cited. If I feel like I understand all positions better as a result of the public discussion. If I truly felt that half of all murders were committed by gay individuals, for example,
That's a statistic that someone
that
quoted.
was cited.
Yes.
I mean, I would be discussing that if I felt that. Now knowing that someone feels that way, that's out. We can have public discussion. We have something, objective data that we can say, you know, that statistic actually is not true. That the New York judge from the 60s that supposedly said that didn't say that. The statistics don't bear that out, and we can have a discussion. But we can have a discussion because it was, those things are aired publicly. We can engage each other. What becomes clear is that there's fear on both sides. And fear, as you alluded to earlier, seems like the most damaging emotion at times. And if we can just continue to talk with each other, I think we can continue to make great progress as a city.
You're so right. And I think that kind of dialogue must happen in families. It must happen in places of business and places of worship. I'm not suggesting for a minute that we all have to agree, because I know that there is no way in my work at Cimarron Alliance, or no way in my lifetime, can I convince everyone that gay people really are okay. But what I can help to do is demonstrate that to people, so that when they are presented with so-called facts, they can make intelligent choices, and that they have an opportunity then to engage in further dialogue. So I think you are right. When anyone becomes afraid, we have that instinct to fight back, and that's exactly what I was feeling that morning. I mean, I wanted to do one of two things: leave Oklahoma City and never come back, or fight.
Right.
The way I chose to do that, though, was not to bash anyone, but simply to present what I know to be true and what I believe to be right. And that's where I think good policy is made, but much more important than that, that's where healthy decisions are made. When people can talk. We have people, very prominent names in Oklahoma, who have made names for themselves by the horrific things that they have said about gay people. Instead of holding a protest against someone like that, I would very much love to sit down and have a conversation. Right. With Sally Kern, for example. I would love to say, Sally, let me tell you what my life is like.
Right.
And I think that sometimes we can accomplish a lot just in our being, just in our being. In our neighborhood, we don't live in a gay neighborhood. Well, I guess we do. If we're there now, it becomes a gay neighborhood. But our neighbors respect us for who we are. We are a couple that takes care of their lawn and doesn't let the house fall apart, and we don't have cars parked up and down the street at all hours of the day and night. And they recognize who we are as a family, which is 2 men, 2 dogs, and a cat. That's our family.
Right.
And I love the fact that we are having discussions about Christmas decorations or about gardens with people who may never have known personally someone that they knew was gay.
Scott, you've touched so many lives. I want to thank you for what you do for your neighborhood, for the gay and lesbian community, but most importantly for the city as a whole.
Thank you for the kind words. I have to underscore one thing, though. I do what I do, but that's a very small part of the positive change. Some of the greatest change of all is taking place because of straight people who are allied with us and understand that justice, fairness, those are things that should be applied to all people. And you, sir, have been a real inspiration in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.